Hello, welcome to this video. We are talking about things I wish I knew when I first started Procreate. This series started when I was on TikTok. It's really what helped me grow a ton on TikTok. It was my first video that ever hit 1 million, which is still mind-boggling to me. And I've got some complaints that the videos are too long or too fast. So I've created a longer form video for all of you so that you can learn the tips, but in a way that is at your pace. So let's get started. So this is what I wish I knew when I first got Procreate. This is the list, so you know that I'm not skipping on anything. So the first thing we're going to do is a color drop. So you will take your shape, whatever shape it is. I'm choosing a circle and dropping my color from that top right color right into it. If you want to change the amount of color that is in there, you can drag, drop, don't pick up your pencil, and then drag from left to right. Left lowers it and right raises the color threshold. If you have an issue with a white gap, that just means you need to raise the color threshold even more. This especially happens with curves and textured brushes. Our next one is just going a little bit over the basics of layers. I've done a couple of other layers videos here on YouTube, but basically the top of the list, those layers are going to be on top or the most forward, and then the layers at the bottom of the list will be the most in the back. I tried to show with my hands, so it didn't really work. Our next tip is how I outline stickers. So first you take away the background by unchecking the background, and then putting a layer underneath your artwork. I'm using a monoline brush that I show you right here. The maximum size in the properties is turned up. Then I turn it all the way to white, make sure that it's all the way there. And then in that layer underneath, I was in the wrong layer. That layer underneath, we trace all that we have. There is a faster way to do this, but it hasn't ever really worked for me because I can't figure it out. So that's how I outline stickers. The next one is the clipping mask. So I'm going to color a layer on top of this circle, just color all over it, and then when I clipping mask, it's going to absorb all of that color in whatever space the circle is. The clipping mask is nice because you can move it around. With an alpha lock, you can either tap alpha lock by tapping it on the what's it called in the menu, or you can swipe with 2 fingers. I'm going to do the same thing here, and it absorbs all of that circle, but this is not editable. So that's the difference between alpha lock and clipping mask. Now we're going to use the automatic selection tool. So I'm selecting all of these little pieces, and this allows me, similar to alpha lock, to color in all of this stuff in this layer. So I'm going to pick a different color, and you see that I can color over it. This is in the same layer that the color was on. So I used the selection tool to do that one. And next we are going to do some drawing guide. So all the drawing guides can be just that, a drawing guide, or you can turn on assisted drawing like I did here, and your pencil strokes, pen strokes, paint strokes, whatever, will only go in the lines of the drawing guide. So that in that case, it was straight. This one, it's going to be slanted in both directions and straight up and down. So you'll see, even though my pen strokes are kind of haphazard, they only go in the same direction as the pen strokes, or as the guide allows the pen strokes to go. The next one, we've got perspective. So you pick where the perspective is for this one, and it's kind of like the rays of the sun. And I messed this up initially, so that's why I sped that up. And so you can see that the pen strokes only go in that direction. They'll also go straight up and down, so that one you have to be a little bit more careful with. And then the last one is radial symmetry. So radial in the options, this one you have to be a little bit more considerate of. There's also quadrilateral, horizontal, and vertical symmetry. And if you do rotational symmetry for this one, you get kind of like a kaleidoscope. And I'll show you what this one looks like. Just kind of have some fun with it. This one can be really mesmerizing if you're having a bad day. So check that one out for sure. The next one is how to make your drawings just a little bit less pixelated if you move them around a lot, twist them, resize them. If you do nearest neighbor, you're going to get it really pixely, but if you go in and make sure it's set to bicubic, it will be far less pixelated. Still some pixelation issues because Procreate is a pixel-based program, but it won't be as bad. So make sure you've got that in the transform tool on bicubic. The next one we have is the smudge tool. So we'll jump right into that. The smudge tool is in between the eraser and the pencil. You can use any brush. In this one, I'm using Larapuna. You can also use like a soft airbrush to get like a really soft feel. It will do it off of the size and opacity of the brush. If your opacity is really down, it will be a really soft blend. If it's higher, it'll be a harder blend. Now we've got the Freestyle tool. So you can move stuff around that way, or you can use it to copy and paste, and you'll get all whatever you've selected in that layer copied and pasted in a new layer. So if you needed to like duplicate a lot of things, this could be really handy. Now we're going to learn how to add text. I'm going to write "this is how," but you can't really see it right away because my color's turned on a light gray. So we're going to select it by double tapping and dragging over and picking a new color. And if you tap the AA, it allows you to change the text box, change the text size, change the spacing of everything. I had to delete that because I have the setting on for the new iOS 14 where you can write and it will type for you basically. So there's got tons of different options. Outline, you can change it to all caps or all lowercase. You can change the spacing. So the difference between kerning and tracking, at first glance, they seem like they're doing the same thing. But if you have kerning on and you're just in between two letters, it will mess with the spacing just between those two letters, whereas tracking will do all of the letters. Landing is the spacing in between the letters, or all the lines. Baseline is where basically it moves all the text. And then there's the opacity, which we know of because it's all over the place in Procreate. You can also change the font. So we've got that. What I'm going to show you next is, it's some people's honestly like how they draw all of their things. So that you can use the Freestyle tool to color drop. You can also use the rectangle tool and color drop. So like I showed earlier where I did automatic selection, I could have just color dropped into all of those spaces and instead of coloring them. You can also color. You can use any sort of the adjustments tools in your selections as well. You can also feather them. So if you wanted, people will use this for making outlines or like a sticker outline. If you do the feathering, you can also do a color fill. So wherever you color, tap, or whatever, it will color. If you hit the invert, it will switch whatever you have selected and reverse it. So that is a big part of the selection tool. So I've got it inverted and now I can color everywhere. Basically my selection isn't because I inverted it. So the next one is the Gaussian blur. So Gaussian blur is in the adjustments tab, and I kept messing this up because I was in the wrong layer. So it's like the layer's empty. So got to the right layer, Gaussian blur in the adjustments tab, layer, and then drag over just like when you change your color threshold. You'll do it the same way here. So left to right, left is lower, right is higher. You see that blue line up at the top. I got really crazy with that. So the next, we've got that you can drag and drop layers or just one layer onto a new canvas. So basically what you'll do is you'll just touch and drag your text or whatever your layers are. I'm going to show you how to do it again, but I'm going to show you how to select multiple. So you'll swipe right to select multiple, drag on over, use your other finger to guide and direct where you go, and then drop it in the layers of another canvas, and it's copy and paste. So you'll go back to your other canvas and it'll still be there. So this is if you need to duplicate only some things. So next we have got, you can move multiple layers at once. This was one of the biggest like wow tips that I ever shared. So you can select multiple layers by swiping right, and then if you hit the transform tool, you can move multiple layers at once. A lot of people were like, oh my gosh, this is a game-changing tip. This is amazing. You can use any of the other transform options with this as well. As you can see, it's moving all of the layers because I swiped right on them to select multiple at the same time. You can see them selected with the light blue. The next option we have is, the next tip. So I'm showing you, I've got the 6B pencil with the properties turned up on the max size. So the 6B pencil is in the sketching, but I have it turned up and I have it in my go-to brushes category. So if you draw just normal, it looks like that, but if you give it a slant, and a lot of other texture brushes will do this too, a slant, it will be kind of like a shading tool, or it'll be like a thinner version of that brush. If you write at a slant, you might find that this is an issue all the time. All of your brushes draw weird. That's because this gesture is turned on. So that's another tip. All right, next tip is if you go to the very top and you long press on the color, you don't have to like tap on it, you long press, it will switch to your previous color. So long press switches to a previous color. That one's a really quick one and can speed up your workflow. This one is pinching. So if you pinch 2 fingers together, it will resize your canvas to its original size, so you can get it back to the way it was faster. The next one is, so you can long press. So this one didn't work for me, but if you long press on the eraser or the smudge tool, it will switch it to whatever brush yours is on. Mine's been glitching lately, so hasn't been working, but you can try it out and see if it works for you. The next one is it's basically one of the quick shapes. So if you draw a line and wait, it will make it longer, but then if you put another finger down, it will make it so it's completely horizontal and move in 15-degree increments. The next one is if you double tap while you're in the disc section of the colors panel, near the white, it will give you perfect white. Near the bottom where the black is, double tap down there, it will make it perfect black. Basically does it all the way around. In this one, you can just test out. It's fun. Double tap wherever you want, see what happens. So next we've got, you can pop the color palette out on, so you see that top notch I'm pointing at, go push on that, drag over it, and your color palette will pop out. Whatever your default color palette is, it will show up for that one if you're on the palettes tab, but you can use it for any other of the other color sections. So you can see I'm tapping through all of them so you can see that. This is really nice if you're changing colors often. It does glitch out a little bit, so sometimes you have to press on the color twice, just because if you're in the colors section, because for some reason it just doesn't always recognize that you tapped it. The next one is the reference tool. So I'm going to make this little pencil outline a reference, and then I'm going to be in a different layer and I'm going to be color dropping. So this can keep your colors layer and your outline layers separate. I wanted to make it so it was a little bit darker. So as you can see, it just dropped and it keeps dropping in. So we have to change our color threshold. See how I kept my pencil down and dragged to the left? And that's because I used a little bit more of a texture brush. So even though my ends were covered, my threshold was too high. So I use this sometimes so that I can add texture to my colors, or I can change my colors later on if I want to keep my outline the way it is. So I'm going to show you, I do just a little bit of texturing. Kind of hard to see because I picked like a light pink color. I don't know what I was thinking. So now I showed you, I do obviously different types of shading with this. This is just a rough sketch so you can get a better idea, but I love that. I love the reference tool. I use it all the time. So next we have the save selections. This is our last tip. So if you do a selection, whether it's an automatic selection, a freestyle, rectangle, or ellipse, if you tap and hit save and load, it will save it for later. Something to keep in mind, if you move your artwork and then go back, it saves it in the space that it was before. So I've got another pencil there. So if you wanted to duplicate something, that would be a really fun way to do it. Wouldn't be the most efficient, but you've also got this, save and load, and it will save your selections. Anyways, that is all the tips I have. My voice is hurting a little bit from all this talking. I hope that these tips helped you and that the slower pace was to your benefit. Anyways, thank you so much. I hope you like and subscribe and comment for anything you need help with. Thanks.